Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise and get you informed fast. Today, we're looking at, well, a pretty intense political storm brewing in the Philippines. It involves a, frankly, staggering amount of public money, a very high-stakes impeachment trial. And it's really shaking things up, our mission in this deep dive, to unpack a stack of sources and figure out how an alleged 142.7 billion in budget insertions might be, a key tool for political power plays, and how it connects directly to the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte.
Yeah, and it's crucial to understand this isn't just bean counting. It's about seeing how the national budget itself, something meant for the public good, can potentially be, well, weaponized in these political fights. It really changes the game.
Okay, so let's get into the core allegation. We're talking about Senate President Chiz Escudero allegedly orchestrating the insertion of around 142.7 billion into the 2025 national budget, which is, 6.3 trillion overall.
That's the number being reported. And the method, supposedly, was through those closed-door bicameral conference committee meetings.
Ah, yes, the BCAM. Always flagged for not being very transparent, right?
Exactly. And this is happening, reportedly, while vital areas like social services and economic programs saw their budgets slashed pretty significantly, too.
How significant are we talking?
Well, the figures floating around are cuts of 33.4% for social services and 29.2% for economic programs compared to 2024. So you can see why people might argue the budget seems tailored for politics, not necessarily national development.
Right, and when you look at where the money allegedly went, it paints a picture. Over $12 billion to Bulacan, that's Senator Joel Villanueva's home province. Interestingly, he apparently said the local public works office knew nothing about the projects.
And then over $9.1 billion to Sorsogon, which is Escudero's own province.
Plus $7.2 billion vaguely marked for Davao. Most people read that as a nod to the Duterte family.
And then there's the really explicit one, $3.02 billion labeled projects for Bongo. Health centers, hospitals, ambulances spread nationwide. That certainly looks like building a national presence.
And you mentioned red flags, too, like buildings without justification.
Yeah, reports mention hundreds of multi-purpose buildings with no clear purpose. Road projects may be split up to avoid audits, flood control without specific locations, things that raise eyebrows. It points towards this idea of the bicameral committee as a sort of black box.
Because it's so secretive.
Precisely. And there were allegations, particularly from the Duterte camp, about blank items in the committee's report. The suggestion being these blanks allowed insertions after the initial agreement, making it almost impossible to trace.
So what's Escudero's response to all this?
He's citing the enrolled bill doctrine, basically a legal idea that once the president signs the bill, the signed version is what counts, and it supposedly had no blanks. He's framing it as a political attack.
But wasn't he previously a big voice for fiscal transparency?
That's the striking contradiction. He used to warn about things like double budgeting and demand full clarity who inserted what and how much. It's quite a turnaround from his past positions.
This whole budget issue feels familiar, though. It's part of that longer story of pork barrel politics, isn't it?
Absolutely. Pork barrel goes way back, even to the American colonial period. It got formalized, as a countrywide development fund. Later, the PDAF Priority Development Assistance Fund. Presidents often used it to, grease the wheels with legislators.
Until the big 2013 PDAF scam, the one with Janet Lim Nichols. That led to the Supreme Court case Belgica versus Ochoa, ruling PDAF unconstitutional.
Yes, but here's the crucial part, the loophole. The court only banned legislators identifying projects after the budget was enacted. It didn't explicitly forbid embedding projects before enactment, often through that same secretive bicameral process.
So now they're called insertions or institutional amendments. Basically old wine in new bottles.
You could say that. It's a way the practice seems to have adapted.
Okay, so running alongside all this budget drama, we have the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte, stemming from alleged misuse of confidential funds, but also more serious accusations, right? Plotting against the president and first lady, sedition charges.
Yes, those are the allegations outlined in the articles of impeachment sent to the Senate. And the Senate, acting as the impeachment court, has been, slow. Very slow.
They got the articles back in February 2025.
Correct, but they only really started moving on it in June, aiming for maybe an August start. And even then, there was that controversial vote.
Right, the 18-5 vote to send the articles back to the House for what was it, compliance certification?
Exactly. A move widely slammed by legal experts as unconstitutional, basically a delaying tactic.
And Escudero, as Senate President, is presiding over this. How's he justifying the delays?
Publicly, he's citing the need to prioritize other legislation.
Yeah.
But, critics see it differently. They interpret it as a calculated move to shield Duterte, possibly with an eye on his own political ambitions for, say, 2028.
Okay, so here's where it all potentially connects. The $142.7 billion budget insertions and the delayed impeachment. Analysts are suggesting a quid pro quo, aren't they? That the money is essentially buying loyalty, maybe even votes, for Duterte's acquittal.
That's the hypothesis gaining traction. In a fragmented Senate, controlling budget allocations is, well, it's the ultimate political currency. It's how leadership can potentially secure loyalty, build a majority for critical votes, like an impeachment trial.
So this is playing out against the backdrop of the Marcos versus Duterte political split. The House, seen as more Marcos-aligned, pushed the impeachment using its power of the purse to scrutinize Duterte.
And now the Senate, led by Escudero, seems to be counter-maneuvering, possibly using these alleged budget insertions to financially strengthen the Duterte-aligned bloc.
Positioning them for 2028.
It certainly looks like positioning for the next presidential election cycle, yes. And the national budget appears to be the main tool in this political project.
So what does this tangle mean for you, listening right now? Well, these linked crises, they chip away at trust, don't they? Trust in institutions, trust that the budget is actually for national development and not just political maneuvering between dynasties. It fuels cynicism.
And we should acknowledge the opposition voices, like Senator Riza Hontiveros, who've consistently been pushing back, challenging these moves, and demanding accountability. Their role is important here.
Thinking about the impeachment outcome, what are the possibilities?
Well, acquittal seems the most likely scenario, according to many observers. That would likely boost Escudero's influence, maybe make him a kingmaker, and definitely position Sara Duterte as a strong contender for 2028.
Conviction.
Highly unlikely, but it would be a massive political upheaval. Then there's the chance of just prolonged limbo. Dismissal on procedural grounds, maybe. That outcome could allow Duterte to frame herself as a victim of political persecution, which could actually energize her base for 2028.
It really highlights a worrying trend, doesn't it? This sort of repersonalization of power, where official roles and processes seem bent towards individual political goals.
Exactly. Formal authority potentially being co-opted for personal agendas.
So here's something to think about until our next deep dive. What does it truly mean for a democracy when the very system designed to fund the nation's progress, the budget, becomes the main battlefield for high-stakes political warfare? What happens to public trust, to the very idea of shared national development when that happens? Something to mull over.